Chapter 1076 Modern Civilization 36,000 sets of magical armor was an extremely frightening number. It had been difficult for the Sun and Song families, who were wealthy families in the palace, to purchase the armor. It could be seen that not many sets of magical armor existed in the Luniverse. But the war had arrived suddenly. The Black Feather Army had been completely defeated by the Weiwu Army before any news could get out. Thus, the Luniverse was silent. No one knew what had happened, and could not ask for information. All they knew was that the Black Feather Army forces fighting at the Wanshi Plains had completely disappeared. Wanshi Plains was filled with corpses. Blood seeped into the ground. On the other hand, the Weiwu Army and a portion of the Black Feather Army had disappeared into the space pathway. No one knew what had happened and what this meant. Everyone only knew that Duanmu Huangqi was alive. He had brought 2 masters back to the West capital. Nie Ting and the rest were taking inventory of the surprise Lu Shu had brought back. At first, the Flood of Bronze only had 20,000 sets of bronze armor. They had lost 4,000 sets because of this war. The average strength in the Heavenly Network was lower than that of the Luniverse. They had completely relied on the bronze armor to increase their strength and reduce fatalities. The decrease in the number of bronze armor sets made Nie Ting, Zhong Yutong, and the rest somewhat worried. After all, if they had fewer sets of bronze armor, it would mean that the Heavenly Network would suffer even more losses if they had another battle in the future. But now, not only had Lu Shu eliminated the danger for the Heavenly Network, he had even brought back many local specialties. The use of the phrase, local specialties, made Chen Zuan assume that magical armor grew on trees in the Luniverse. Brother Shu. Chen Zuan suddenly asked, are there any difference between the Luniverse and Earth? For example, is there anything very common in the Luniverse that is rare on Earth? Chang Qiuqiao asked, I think it's magical weapons. There must be many magical weapons there. Li Yixiao guessed. Magical stones? Are there a lot of magical stones there? Everyone looked at Lu Shu. After all, Lu Shu had the right to answer this question. What was very common in the Luniverse that was rare on Earth? Lu Shu looked at Chen Zuan and paused for 2 seconds. People of the Luniverse? From Chen Zuan's distress, plus 666. From Li Yixiao's distress, plus 666. From. Everyone suddenly felt that Lu Shu had actually returned. The Lu Shu they had not seen for a long time was actually back. Nie Ting asked Zhong Yutong to store the magical armor in the warehouse. Then, they reorganized the Flood of Bronze based on the current strength of the Heavenly Network. The Heavenly Network now had 200,000 people, including the students from the cultivation colleges. There were 60,000 people who could wear the magical armor to battle, as many members were still students. Nie Ting sent the students back to school. He did not want to impose the future of the Heavenly Network too early on them. There were only 50,000 sets of armor. Thus, the remaining 10,000 people could only act as backup. Although Lu Shu had brought back many sets of magical armor, many people could not wear them. As for the integration of the Weiwu Army, Nie Ting and Lu Shu silently decided to talk about it at a later time, as it was a sensitive issue. The Weiwu Army only recognized Lu Shu as their leader. There were 59 people wearing the black armor, excluding Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu. There were 56 Imperial Palace soldiers including Zhang Weiyu, as well as Lu Yizhou, Li Liang, and Yi Qian. They were a frightening force. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were able to overturn the earth. Thus, they had to be careful with the Weiwu Army. Lu Shu had asked Zhang Weiyu to lead the Weiwu Army and follow Hao Jichao. They would settle the issues of meals and accommodation. The Weiwu Army was not worried. They had understood that this was the hometown of their great lord. Everyone was very familiar with their great lord. Zhang Weiyu had also understood that Lu Shu had definitely lost his strength due to some reasons before going to the Luniverse. Thus, he had formed a few misunderstandings. It was precisely because Lu Shu was not a rank 6 practitioner that he was able to perform in such a unique manner wherever he went. It was very shocking for a rank 6 to be able to use sword energy. When the Weiwu army walked into the fortress, they could feel the gazes of admiration from the members of the Heavenly Network. Although they were unfamiliar with one another, their relationship with Lu Shu caused them to get closer. The 9th Heavenly King and the head of the Weiwu army. When Lu Shu's identities merged, the gap between them narrowed. Furthermore, the Weiwu army had been a great help to the Heavenly Network. When Lu Shu asked Zhang Weiyu to follow Hao Qichao asked, "Do you have any other requests, other than food and lodging?" Lu Shu thought about it. "There's nothing else from me." "Zhang Weiyu, do you have any requests?" "They will be able to fulfill your requests as long as they are not too extreme." Zhang Weiyu thought about it and said, "Could you give us some books to read? We want to understand the history, culture, geography, and environment of this place." To Zhang Weiyu, he did not just have to consider simple things like eating and sleeping. He was still in charge of the affairs in the Weiwu army. Thus, he had many things to consider. This request of books would not be too extreme, right? Just as Hao Qichao was about to agree, Lu Shu's expression suddenly changed. Lu Shu said with bitter hatred, "Rest well for now. Why read books? No reading of books. Eat and go to sleep." Hao Qichao and Zhang Weiyu were dumbfounded. What was this? Lu Shu waved his hand. "Go do what you have to do. Eat well and sleep well. Don't read any books." Zhang Weiyu was dumbfounded. The Lu Shu of the past was not like this. The Weiwu army had to do homework while riding on their horses. Why the sudden drastic change? But Lu Shu did not explain much to them. He continued discussing with Nieting. There were far too many things to discuss. Zhang Weiyu was worried that the Heavenly Network would not have done any preparations to accept them. Thus, it would be slightly chaotic. Read latest chapters at wuxiaworld.site. He realized that he had been overly anxious. This organization called the Heavenly Network was highly efficient. Zhang Weiyu sighed when he saw this. It was as if everything was neat and followed the rules. They stayed in cement houses. The house was clean. They could even take hot showers. Typically, modern military campsites would have a shower at every level. Li Haitan followed Hao Qichao's instructions and turned on a shower. Sure enough, hot water flowed out. It was very convenient to use the toilets as well. The water would flush everything away. This was a huge hit to the world outlook of the Weiwu army. It was a chemical reaction that would definitely be produced when old and modern civilizations clashed. However, Zhang Weiyu was relieved that the Heavenly Network did not deploy anyone to supervise them. They treated the Weiwu army like their own allies. Chapter 1077, Guangdong Dishes. Was Zhang Weiyu worried about not enough food, clothes, and sleep? Of course not. At his level, he no longer had any desire for food and other material goods. Thus, he was worried. What if the Heavenly Network treated the Weiwu army like outsiders? It would be dejecting if they were constantly supervised and could not go out. It was said that those of a different race had different mindsets. This idea was the same on Earth and in the Luniverse. It was normal for Zhang Weiyu to be worried about this. But the Heavenly Network had given him a surprise. No one supervised them or rejected them. They felt at home, although this home was rather foreign. The Weiwu army had fought from Nanging City to the Wanxi Plains. No one cared about taking showers. When they were fighting, they did not feel anything. But once they were done, they realized that they were all smelly. Then, Hao Qichao deployed people to bring them to the showers. They had showers with hot water and convenient daily amenities. After they were done showering, some felt that this was treatment only aristocrats could enjoy. They asked out of curiosity and discovered that everyone here showered this way. It was as if they had come to the palace from the country. They were curious about everything. However, Zhang Weiyu observed closely. The members of the Heavenly Network did not mock them. In reality, most people would laugh at them. If you brought a friend to visit the palace for the first time, you would find it amusing when your friend was amazed, as you were familiar with everything. But the Heavenly Network was different. They patiently explained everything to them. They did not mock them. Suddenly Zhang Weiyu felt that it would not be a bad idea to stay here. Back then, when Lu Shu said that he wanted to bring them to his hometown, Zhang Weiyu was rather worried, but did not oppose Lu Shu, as he could not do so. Now, he felt that this was a pleasant surprise. When it was time to eat, Hao Chichao brought them to the canteen. The canteen was very big. Furthermore, Zhang Weiyu was amazed at the concrete infrastructure. Hao Chichao was somewhat embarrassed. He explained, many of our cooks are not experienced due to the war. Thus, the meals they make may not be very good. I told them about today, but the meals may not be to your liking. Zhang Weiyu did not care about this kind of thing now. He smiled. If we can have hot meals, that will be good. We are not too particular. When it was time to eat, everyone took their trays and lined up for food. There was braised pork, sour and spicy potatoes, fiery chicken. When the Weiwu army saw these, they did not know what they were, but they smelled very good. There was a lack of seasonings and things to eat in the Luniverse. The food was not as fragrant as that of on Earth. Li Haitan ate a bite of braised pork. Zhang Weiyu looked down on him. Haitan, don't be deceived by your surroundings. You must have perseverance in training. You must be able to reject temptations. Try some, said Li Haitan. Zhang Weiyu casually ate one bite. When Zhang Weiyu and the rest ate, they felt as if they had been tricked. How could this not be delicious? Was this what they meant by it might not taste good? This was amazing. While they felt that the food was delicious, the cooks almost collapsed. When the Weiwu army came, Lu Xiaoyu told them to eat as much as they wanted. After all, it was not their home. Thus, Li Haitan and the rest ate as much as they wanted. The canteen had prepared food for 20,000 people, but it was still not enough for the Weiwu army. Lu Shu was still discussing official affairs with Nie Ting. Suddenly Nie Ting thought of something. He suddenly waved at Lu Xiaoyu, who was on the city wall. Xiaoyu, come here. I have a present for you. Lu Xiaoyu turned around. When she heard that Nie Ting had a present for her, she smiled and her eyes turned into crescent moons. I'm coming. Nie Ting led a group of people on horses. They went to the secret jail at the Longmen Fortress. The Black Feather Army soldiers they had captured were here. They tried to obtain information from them to paint a complete picture of the Luniverse. But this information was not longer very important, as Lu Shu would tell them everything they wanted to know. If Lu Shu did not know something, these ordinary soldiers of the Black Feather Army probably would not know either. Furthermore, the people who understood the Luniverse most on Earth were the Imperial Palace soldiers. The secret jail was not as dark as they had expected. It had been modified from a residential house. Everyone here had broken foundations. They had become ordinary people. Thus, there was no difference from an ordinary jail. It was harsh to destroy their foundations, but Nie Ting was willing to be harsh towards his enemies. This was to prevent them from using their strength to escape the jail. What if they injured the civilians and their soldiers while escaping? The secret jail was tightly guarded, but it looked like a normal jail from the outside. There was sunlight, a parade square, a basketball court, and exercise facilities. This was a display of humanitarianism. It was a pity that the prisoners here could not play basketball. The offenders were locked up by themselves. There was a window on every door that seemed to be blocked with metal bars. The people outside could see what was happening inside. The people inside could also see what was happening outside through the metal bars. When they passed by one of the houses, they suddenly saw an offender leaning on the metal bars. He said to Chen Xuan, "Come here. Come. Let me tell you a secret." Chen Xuan was dumbfounded. He looked at the rest. The person leading the way said, "That person is crazy. He's called Li Ku. He was the chief logistics officer of the Black Feather Army that we first caught. At first, he was fine. For some reason, he started to go crazy. That can't be right. There must be a reason behind his insanity." Chen Xuan was curious. Li Ke asked Chen Xuan to come over, saying that he had a secret to tell him. The head of the prison explained. At first, we gave him our best delicacies in exchange for information. Later on, someone teased him and asked whether he wanted to try Guangdong dishes. He asked what was the best tasting thing in Guangdong. The person said that the best thing in Guangdong was the Fujian people. Then, he went crazy. Chang Qiuqiao sighed. He is far too weak. Don't tell me that he is acting. Lu Shu looked at Chen Xuan and paused for 2 seconds. Then, he said to Chen Xuan, "Go and listen to what he had to say to you." Chen Xuan was very curious. When Lu Shu said this, Chen Xuan no longer hesitated. The moment he approached Li Ke said, "Peh." A mouth of spit that Chen Xuan would never forget fell on his face. Chen Xuan went crazy. "Open the door. Did you hear me? I will kill him. Open the door." From Chen Xuan's Distress, plus 666. Chapter 1078, Sees the Natural Laws of Masters. Wait. Brother Shu, why didn't you go and listen? Chen Xuan looked at Lu Shu. Lu Shu waved. I don't want to be spit on. No wonder Lu Shu seemed curious, but did not go and listen. He was protecting himself. If Lu Shu had not encouraged Chen Xuan would not have been spit on. Chen Xuan felt that ever since he had started training, the longest path he had taken was Brother Shu's path. When Shi Xuejin saw this, he suddenly felt that the atmosphere had become more cheerful after Lu Shu had returned. After Lu Shu left, although Chen Xuan had become much more reliable, Chang Qiuqiao and Chen Xuan seemed like completely different people. They were no longer as cheerful. The heavenly network had been filled with a tense atmosphere as they prepared for battle. It was completely different now. They had become much happier. They continued walking in. Suddenly, Lu Shu realized that the present Nie Ting had prepared for Lu Xiaoyu was very unusual. When they saw the present, they were shocked. Chen Yuxuan was in a solitary cell. He was on the verge of death. Mysterious black veins covered his face. He seemed completely disabled. Although Lu Shu had a guess, he wanted to confirm it. He is the first master who came from the west region, Chen Yuxuan, said Nie Ting calmly. Then, he turned and smiled at Lu Xiaoyu. You should be able to capture the spirit of a master, right? Lu Xiaoyu's eyes lit up. It was as if she had been given a pillow just as she was about to take a nap. She did not have the natural law of a master that would allow her spirits to advance. Lu Shu felt that this was very impressive. Nie Ting had presented Lu Xiaoyu with a master as a gift. Not only was Lu Shu surprised, even Chen Xuan and the rest found it hard to believe. They looked at Nie Ting, who had a warm gaze. Was this the same heavenly king Nie that had been killing with determination? Although it sounded very frightening to present a life as a gift, no one felt any mercy for him. Many of their comrades had been sacrificed. If the people from the West region had not come, would they experience these losses? If the people of the Luniverse learned that a master in the land of forefathers treated another master as a gift, Nie Ting's name would spread in the Luniverse within 3 days. The people in the heavenly network felt that Nie Ting spoiled Xiaoyu. Lu Shu opened the door and walked into the cell. He forced a refresher fruit into Chen Yuxuan's mouth. Suddenly, Chen Yuxuan sprang back to life like a plant in spring. His strength started to increase. Before he could celebrate, he heard the young man in front of him say, "Go there and wait for Duanmu Huangqi. I will send him to you very quickly." The next moment, Chen Yuxuan felt a piercing pain in his chest that spread throughout this body. His white clothes were stained by blood. Chen Yuxuan did not expect himself to fall into an abyss just after receiving hope. Lu Shu turned and looked at Lu Xiaoyu. "Is it done?" "Yes." Lu Xiaoyu smiled. Then, she took out a pack of potato chips from her space ring and passed it to Nie Ting. "This is for you." Nie Ting did not seem to be offended. He took the pack of chips and opened it. He started munching on them. Chen Zuan was confused. "Why were you so happy receiving a pack of chips in exchange for a master? Were you really Nie Ting?" "Xiaoyu, do you still have any chips?" Chen Zuan asked. Lu Xiaoyu smiled. "Buy them yourself." Chen Zuan was dumbstruck. From Chen Zuan's distress, plus 666. Shi Xuejin watched Nie Ting eat. He looked at the packet of chips. Then, Nie Ting turned around. He did not even let Shi Xuejin watch him. Shi Xuejin cleared his throat. "Xiaoyu, I have a gift for you as well." Everyone was dumbfounded. Were they competing to give Lu Xiaoyu presents? Why was she treated so well? But this time, Lu Shu was truly surprised. A large pile of white sand flew out of Shi Xuejin's invisible storage equipment. Deep-sea white sand. Lu Shu was shocked. They had used deep-sea white sand before, but they only had 2 fists worth of sand. In the past, half of the sand could be used to protect Lu Xiaoyu like armor, while the other half was used to attack. But Lu Xiaoyu had grown taller. Thus, the deep-sea white sand was only enough to form her armor. But this surprise came very quickly. Lu Shu felt that not only could the deep-sea white sand form armor, it could easily form an entire person. Nie Ting glanced at Shi Xuejin. There was a message behind his gaze. "Your present is not bad." Then, they ate a packet of chips each. Lu Shu had wasted a refresher fruit and fed it to Chen Yuxuan. He was worried that if his foundation had not recovered, Lu Xiaoyu would capture a disabled spirit. Thus, this wastage had been worth it. After all, the distress points he had lost was made up by the distress points Chen Yuxuan had produced when he died. Lu Shu thought about it. One refresher fruit cost 1,000 points. When a person died, they gave him 1,000 distress points as well. Was there some logic behind this? But it was not the time to think about this. Lu Xiaoyu did not choose to materialize Chen Yuxuan. Instead, she seized his natural law and gave it to Anthony. It was not that she disliked Chen Yuxuan because his combat power was not higher. In reality, masters were all able to deliver earth-shaking attacks. But in terms of functionality, if they were going to fight in the future, Anthony would be more useful. Earlier, when they had been attacking, Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu realized that if Anthony was able to advance to the Master Realm, there would be great improvements in underground transport. It would not be impossible to raid the palace without anyone noticing. Furthermore, they had more deep-sea white sand. Anthony would not lose to other masters even if he fought in the air. Quality over quantity. Since Lu Xiaoyu was familiar with the attack techniques of Earth-type metahumans, she would definitely make use of what she was best at. It would have been great if Duanmu Huangqi and the rest had remained. Lu Shu felt a sense of regret. If there were 3 more people, Lu Xiaoyu would become the strongest power in the world. There would be no question. Would you be afraid if someone had 4 masters in their possession? Thus, Lu Shu grew more and more excited for the opening of the space pathway. This time, he would not be forced to go there. He would not travel alone either. This was the meaning of joining the heavenly network. What do we do now? Chen Zuan asked. Lu Shu suddenly said, drink alcohol. The deceased were left to rest in peace. Those who were alive drank alcohol. What was in the past was in the past. New people would protect the new era. Chapter 1079, The Mystery of the Barrier Between the Two Worlds. The alcohol that the heavenly network drank at night was neither premium alcohol nor one that everyone could drink. Even though all of them knew how the space pathway would open, they had to wait for a while. However, the problem was that the tradition of the heavenly network did not allow them to do anything they wanted. What if the space pathway opened that night? At this moment, Lu Shu had told Nie Ting his thoughts. There could be someone backing Duanmu Huangqi and controlling everything. Therefore, even if the Black Feather Army perished, they could not let their guards down. After all, Duanmu Huangqi had yet to die and nobody knew who was backing Duanmu Huangqi. At this moment, Nie Ting started to think about how to face the Luniverse. In the past, Nie Ting would think that it was better for him to mind his own business. That was because the heavenly network was not good at attacking. They were better at defending. However, times had changed. The heavenly network was not good at attacking, but Nie Ting suddenly realized that the Earth was like a luring target in the eyes of people in the Luniverse. Pathways had opened in North America and Northern Europe. However, only some people from the Luniverse barged in accidentally like Li Ke. Nobody had found the correct entrance yet. However, the practitioners from the Luniverse were surprised when they entered. The reason was neither the food nor the discovery of magical stone mines. The reason was because they found out that there was a large number of people without a leader. In the Luniverse, people were assets. They served as the supply of slaves. Lu Shu and Nie Ting did not expect that. Initially, they thought that the Luniverse would not be interested in the Earth. However, they discovered that the Luniverse perception on keeping slaves was completely different from that of the Earth's. Moreover, they did not keep slaves based on trades. They had broken free from the restrictions of the King of Gods and viewed the people on Earth as properties which they could pick up as and when they liked. In the Luniverse, ordinary villagers had their register as an ordinary villager. One had to sign a slave contract with an ordinary villager and report it before the villager was officially considered one's slave. This was a rule made by the old King of Gods in order to protect the villagers. However, the implementation of the rule faced many problems. When the old King of Gods was around, the slave owners did not dare to do anything funny. However, after the old King of Gods was no longer around, the moral degeneration of the society began to get worse. And now when they arrived on Earth, they did not have to report to anyone. Without any restrictions, they started labeling people as slaves directly. The good thing was that these people were lost. Only a minority of the people from Luniverse dared to do this when they first arrived at a foreign place. Most of the people from the Luniverse decided to wait and see first. However, some of the attitude of the people in the Luniverse were sufficient to ring a warning bell on Earth. The parties did not view each other equally, they were thinking about whether they could steal one's resources. This was not the speciality of people from the Luniverse. In fact, in the history of the development of people on Earth, there were many cases of how one invaded others. The situation in Northern Europe was still all right. The entrance was beside the Holy Palace and one would get surrounded by the deities once they stepped out. However, the situation was different in North America. The people from the Luniverse who entered accidentally made 100 overstamps for slaves overnight. Fortunately, the Phoenix Society discovered this in time. Lu Shu's first reaction after entering the Luniverse was, "Why is this place so underdeveloped?" That was because the basic infrastructure and production was too underdeveloped. To put it simply, their technical skills were extremely bad. However, when the people from the Luniverse went to the Earth, they also felt that the Earth was underdeveloped. Why was the average capabilities of people so bad? This was the difference between the culture of technology and culture of training. Both of their ideologies were extremely different. However, at this moment, Lu Shu was thinking about a question. If the space pathway on the Changbai Mountains was left behind by the old king of gods for himself, then what about the Longmen Mountain, Northern Europe and North America? Did one space pathway mean that a powerful individual from the Luniverse had broken through the barrier between the two worlds and landed on Earth? Based on the information they had so far, it was not easy for one to break through the barrier between the two worlds. At least, Duanmu Huangqi was unable to do that. However, was it only possible for one to be at a higher level than the Master Realm to accomplish that? That did not make sense. Only 3 people on the Luniverse accomplished that. Lu Shu felt that he should keep this question in mind. Northern Europe. If his speculation was accurate, who would come from Northern Europe? Lu Shu fell silent. When he was drinking at night, Lu Shu was extremely happy. To Zhang Weiyu and the rest, they were in a new environment. To Lu Shu, on the other hand, he had returned home. Lu Shu was a person who liked to stay at home and did not like to be out and about. When he was in the Luniverse, he felt that he did not belong there as everything was somewhat unrelated to him. He was only willing to be a passerby. As he was drinking, Li Yixiao ran over sneakily. "Brother." Lu Shu looked at Li Yixiao while smiling. "You are planning to do something to the Luniverse again?" "I know the Luniverse is very dangerous," said Li Yixiao as he lowered his volume. "I am saying this while I am high from the alcohol. You don't know how difficult my time is at home. So, I decided to head over to the Luniverse the next round when the space pathway is opened. Is it easy to earn money over there?" Lu Shu was happy. The last sentence finally made Li Yixiao speak his mind. Then, Lu Shu saw Nalan K's figure and shouted, "Look after Heavenly Kingly, he is about to head to the Luniverse." Nalan K frowned immediately. Li Yixiao had to explain for a long time to calm her down. "Brother," said Li Yixiao as he frowned, "you were not like this last time. Did you forget the days when we earned money together?" Lu Shu said, "I am doing this for your sake. The Luniverse is a dangerous place, you should avoid it at all cost. To be honest, the Luniverse is like an abyss, even if you go over, it won't make a difference." Lu Shu said this sincerely. He really did not want to see Li Yixiao die over there. Although Li Yixiao was already very powerful, it was too dangerous, especially since the masters were moving to the front line. At this moment, Hao Qichao who was beside him said, "Li Yixiao, are you so afraid of Heavenly King Nalan?" Li Yixiao was extremely unhappy. "You think that my wife is very strict because you only see how I give in to her when I am outside. I endure this treatment because I respect her. Back at home, she cooks for me, washes my clothes, serves me tea and cleans the house. You do not see all of that." Lu Shu kept silent for 2 seconds. "Can you see it yourself?" Li Yixiao sighed, "I can't **King see anything." From Li Yixiao's Distress, plus 748. Chapter 1080, Black Feather Army's Sneak Attack. Li Yixiao's plan to earn money from the Luniverse was definitely going to be a failure. Therefore, he could only drink to get over it. To be honest, Li Yixiao and Nalan K had experienced the transition from misery to happiness then to misery. Both of them forcefully upgraded their realms in the battle with the Black Feather Army at the Longmen Fortress, causing injuries to their foundations. Before they ate the refresher fruit, both of their powers fell to grade B. At this moment, Nalan K comforted Li Yixiao, saying that even if they could no longer practice, they would stay along with each other forever. When she saw Li Yixiao in despair, she promised that she would increase his daily pocket money to $30. The couple lived a hard life. If their visuals were suitable, they could have filmed a drama. However, before Li Yixiao could feel happy, their foundations recovered. Therefore, Li Yixiao asked Nalan K if what she said earlier was still valid. Nalan K said no mercilessly. How unlucky was he? Lu Shu drank a lot that night and did not even know when he got drunk. However, he did not have to worry. As long as Lu Xiaoyu was not drunk, he could return home safely. Lu Xiaoyu, on the other hand, never drank. Lu Xiaoyu, with the help of Anthony, brought drunkard Lu Shu back to the small apartment located in the 4th district of the Xingshu Road. As it was uninhabited for a long time, the furniture had a layer of dust. Nevertheless, Anthony was good at cleaning and the room was sparkling clean in the blink of an eye. Anthony placed Lu Shu on the bed. Lu Xiaoyu moved a chair over and sat beside Lu Shu, quietly looking at him. Lu Shu had already fallen asleep. This was the first time Lu Xiaoyu saw Lu Shu drunk. In the past, Lu Shu drank but had never gotten drunk. One reason was because he never drank so much alcohol in the past as it was expensive. Another reason was because Lu Shu did not like the feeling of losing consciousness. This time, be it the death of his battlemates in the flood of bronze or some other forms of stress, Lu Shu decided to fully relax. Lu Xiaoyu did not stop him as she knew that it was extremely difficult for Lu Shu to fully relax. In the past, he always had to bear some form of responsibility and forced himself to continue advancing. Lu Xiaoyu could sense that Lu Shu was trying to escape from something. This did not feel like Lu Shu anymore. However, was it important to Lu Xiaoyu? No. No matter whether Lu Shu chose to run away or face it, as long as she was in his plans, it was enough. On the second morning, while they were still asleep, Li Haitan and Zhang Weiyu heard shouts coming from the outside of their house. However, they were not worried as the shout was too familiar. 121, 121, 1234. Wasn't that the cheer the past king shouted when he led them for their morning exercise? However, when Zhang Weiyu and the rest looked out to the wide field and heard the neat footsteps of the group, they felt stunned. Zhang Weiyu could feel the discipline and coordination behind the neat footsteps. However, everyone was mature-minded and would not run over to join in the exercise immediately after being influenced. That would be extremely embarrassing. They woke up so early. I don't think we can continue sleeping. What should we do? Asked Li Haitan. He felt that it did not make sense for them to continue sleeping while others were practicing outside. At this moment, Lu Shu's voice could be heard from behind, then do homework. At this moment, Li Haitan felt like slapping himself. What was he doing? What was wrong with sleeping? Wasn't it comfortable to sleep? From Li Haitan's distress, plus 666. From Lu Shu was feeling pitiful for exchanging his distress points for the refresher fruit. His desire for distress points was like his stubbornness towards money. Moreover, he needed the Weiwu army to assimilate into the current world as soon as possible and familiarize themselves. Therefore, he asked some students from the cultivation college to act as intern teachers. All of this was discussed with Nie Ting, and many of the people were people that Lu Shu had known. For example, Bai Nua, whom he had met in the competition at the cultivation college. Lu Shu remembered that she had a lot of fans at that time. However, those who were called over from the Heavenly Network to act as interns were bothered by the fact that Heavenly King Lu emphasized for them not to teach ancient poems. Moreover, they had to give homework. During the assimilation process of the Weiwu army, two sets of ideologies would definitely clash. During the lesson, while the students were understanding the humanities and environment, Zhang Weiyu was curious. Are there really no slaves in this world? Bai Nua thought about it and replied, it is not accurate to say that. There are some small remote countries with slaves, but that was only a small portion. We live by the ideology that everyone is equal. Most of the people in the Weiwu army were once slaves and had been roamers whom everyone despised. Therefore, when Bai Nua spoke about the ideology that everyone is equal, everyone was inspired. However, Bai Nua explained, we are still not at the stage of everyone is equal yet. However, there should not be any suppression like that in the case of a slave owner and a slave. As for why they were not at the stage of everyone is equal, it was a societal problem that all societies were unable to avoid. When they had lessons in the morning, the Weiwu army felt refreshed. Everything they learnt was new things and extremely tempting. This new world seemed to be very interesting. However, at night, everyone started to break down. They had to study at night. Moreover, although they had fun during the 7 lessons in the day, 7 pieces of homework at night was not fun. This affected the Weiwu army greatly. The most direct effect could be seen by how the canteen prepared food for 30,000 people for the 5,000 soldiers in the Weiwu army so that they would not feel hungry. At night, the chef realized that all the soldiers in the Weiwu army were extremely exhausted. They only ate a portion for 10,000 people. This was completely unlike the normal Weiwu army. The next morning when Lu Shu headed to Weiwu army's territory, he heard Li Haitan shouting as he ran towards Lu Shu. Lu Shu was stunned for a moment. "What are you doing?" Li Haitan said anxiously, "King, the Black Feather army came over to our territory to steal. We didn't catch them." Black Feather army? Lu Shu did not expect that to happen. He knew that there were some soldiers left in the wild and the Heavenly Network was searching for them to prevent them from hurting the villagers. However, he did not expect the soldiers of the Black Feather army to be so daring and came back to the Longmen fortress to steal. How did they get in? Lu Shu asked curiously, "What did they steal?" Li Haitan cried, "They took my worksheet." Lu Shu's face turned black immediately. Scram!
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty, man, we just putting on the show. Try to look to the heavens.